Hello, my name is Glenn Poor, and I'm going to be presenting my memoir, Memory and Mastery presentation on reading Lolita in Tehran. Before I start a quick introduction, I just want to give a background of my professional experience in this subject. I am an equal opportunity leader for the United States Army, and I'm going to be an equal opportunity advisor for an entire division within 10th Mountain, and that's at Fort Drum, New York. So this book in general and this class really was enlightening to what I do, but also to my future endeavors and how I can actually take this and push into my professional role, which we'll talk about later on in this presentation. So this is a memoir about Azar Nafisi's life in post-revolution Iran. She was a literature professor, and she used her personal experiences and desires of Western laxity to cope with oppression and lack of freedoms once coveted. So she definitely establishes the context and tone of her defiance against that post-revolutionary Iran Islamic regime through what she did within the university, and we'll talk about that a little bit too as well. So out of defiance, her and 7 of her female students created a private reading group, and they talked about such literature such as Lolita, which we really dive deep into, The Great Gatsby, Pride and Prejudice, and Daisy Miller. Again, all these kind of take their different perspectives on freedom, oppression, identity, but again, talking about their past freedoms and what they can accomplish. So we looked at our rationale of book connections versus the course objectives that we found in the syllabus. So for course-specific objectives, the analyze demographic trends and societal structures from an educator's perspective. Her teaching experiences, especially with her secret literature groups for women, they offer a distinct viewpoint on how demographic trends and societal changes, particularly gender roles, impact political ideology and affect individuals' lives and opportunities. The other objective that kind of stuck home with me was to evaluate the nature of race relations and prejudice. So not so much focused on race in this sense, but it does delve into the other forms of oppression, such as gender, religion, and ideological conformity, which they still practice now today within Iran. And our freedoms and essential resources we've taken for granted. Still, for so many people, to include it within the United States, are definitely limited. The next objective is to analyze how culture affects learning and achievement. The book explores how the oppressive culture and political climate of post-revolution Iran deeply affects the learning experiences and intellectual growth of Nafisi and her students. So elements such as culture norms, governmental restrictions, societal expectations, they will definitely shape the educational system and individual successes. And then lastly, this one kind of really struck home was to build culturally responsive teaching practices, because as I've spoke with everybody throughout the entire class and made it a priority of mine, is education is key in order of combating these issues. So as an educator, Nafisi, she adjusts her teaching methods to reflect the cultural realities of post-revolutionary Iran while empowering her students to critically engage with their surroundings. So she prioritizes understanding her students' cultural backgrounds and uses this insight to craft inclusive, meaningful, and transformative learning experiences. So the assigned questions that we were given for this book was, how did she use principles of cultural competence and cultural responsive teaching in her practices? So she cultivated cultural competence and culturally responsive teaching by connecting with her students' cultural context, fostering a safe and inclusive learning environment, again, as much as she possibly could, and then linking the curriculum to their real life situations, which I think we do a very good job of within this class, as well as adapting to cultural realities and affirming their identities with empathy. That last word, empathy, is it's really close to my heart. As a leader within the United States Army, that's how I identify as a leader. I use empathy to lead. I'm not the one with an iron fist. I'm not yelling. I'm not, you know, within that realm. So empathy is huge within how I move about every day. What might you have done differently in the same situation? So I'm going to read this verbatim, but so honestly, I believe I would have conformed in a similar situation. As someone who tends to follow rules and avoid confrontation, I would likely have adhered to societal expectations, particularly out of concern for my family's safety. What Nafisi and her book club accomplished was not only courageous, but truly heroic, and it's difficult to imagine myself taking those same risks. This isn't to say I lack the strength or the will to stand up against injustice or wrongdoing, but rather that out of sense of self-preservation and adherence to the rules, I might have chosen a path more in line with societal norms. However, after reading Lolita In Tehran and gaining a deeper understanding of the broader implications of Nafisi's defiance, I now realize the profound significance of standing up for one's beliefs, even in the face of danger. Her resistance was not just an act of rebellion, but a path to greater freedom and change, and it's now clear how this can be achieved by challenging oppressive systems. So I went over a few of the issues and themes in the relation to the United States Army, and I broke them up into 5 separate groups. So the first one's leadership in repressive environments versus a leading in a structured hierarchical system. So she assumed that leadership role when she made that safe space for her students, even within that repressive society. So within the Army, leadership operates within a structured environment, but we also demand adaptability and empathy. So just like Nafisi, today's Army leaders are responsible for understanding those diverse backgrounds, challenges, perspective of our troops. We have to know their limitations, right? And understand how to foster that teamwork and cohesion. Next, diversity and inclusion. Again, my bread and butter, my wheelhouse. So, but with Nafisi, went to her classroom. She had different diverse social, economical, and religious backgrounds for the 7 personnel that were in there. Similar to United States Army today, we have a great importance of diversity and inclusion. Again, I'm an opportunity leader, equal opportunity leader. I'm responsible for promoting diversity, educating others, and ensuring that every individual is treated fairly, regardless of their background, much like the Feces efforts to create an inclusive intellectual environment. Intellectual freedoms and critical thinking. The Feces and her students engage in critical discussions about literature, using these texts as a means to question the political and social structures around them. Similarly, the United States Army promotes initiatives like Mission Command, where we empower junior leaders to make the decisions with the commander's intent, fostering that flexibility and creativity. Resilience and adaptability. Nafisi and her students demonstrated resilience by pursuing education in a difficult, oppressive environment. Again, there was lots of legalities and even criminal intent that could have possibly be brought upon them. So soldiers are trained to operate under challenging and often dangerous conditions, remaining committed to their mission despite adversity. So the Army instills it within its soldiers the ability to stay adaptable and focused, much like Nafisi students who continue to learn and grow despite the repressive societal structures surrounding them. Moral integrity and ethical leadership. This is a huge piece of what the Army is trying to get after and change within their structure. So Nafisi remains steadfast in upholding her values and commitment to intellectual freedom, inspiring her students to preserve their individuality and self-worth. This focus on integrity mirrors the Army's core values, particularly honor and integrity. Just as Nafisi stands firm against injustice, Army leaders must demonstrate unwavering ethical principles, whether through professionalism in combat or standing up for what is right in challenging circumstances. In conclusion, reading Lolita In Tehran offers profound insights into the lives of women in post-revolutionary Iran and illustrates how literature can serve as a tool for resistance. Nafisi's memoirs shed lights on oppressive political and cultural climate where the Iranian regime controls both public actions and private thoughts. It highlights the immense courage required to defy authoritarianism and show how literature fosters critical thinking, self-discovery, and rebellion. Nafisi's Defiance emphasizes the value of standing up for one's principles and the transformative power of intellectual freedom on both personal and societal levels. Ultimately, the book illustrates how stories and ideas can surpass boundaries and oppressive systems, enabling systems to reclaim their voices even in the most restrictive settings. The resilience, strength, and solidarity displayed by Nafisi and her students underscores the vital role of education and culture in achieving personal and collective empowerment. These are the references that I used throughout my entire presentation.